I mean, in this presentation, you should go through all those things and figure out what it is that you want to project and figure out how you want to add value and how you want to interact with people, and you really kind of have carte blanche for it. I don't think you have tons of limitations if you are working. It's just that you have to put more effort in striking that balance. You're not going to have to really worry about that as much. And if you want to start a business like, selling some kind of niche product, that's where having a personal brand comes in handy.
Matthew Wallman with City Search. I'm working with a lot of small, mid-sized businesses, like, for example, jewelers, where their name is their business.
Right.
So their first and last name is their business, and that's their brand. And they're starting to wanting to flirt a little with social networking. So Facebook, even Twitter. Are there do's and don'ts they should do? Because their goal is really to promote their product and sales.
Small business?
Small business.
They should actually have a leg up. Because what they do to jewelry.
Yeah.
So do the people know who's behind the counter?
Yes.
Do that.
But is it too...
Operate like that in the social space, because that's sort of what it's like. These bigger companies are acting like small ones.
But to do Twitter messages like 20% off, or if they want it more sales oriented, is there? That's
what they can do.
That's their bottom line goal. But should they?
What they can do is buy areas since they're local. They can find out who's talking about jewelry.
Right.
And they can identify, like in the Chicago area, and then. I'm sorry. Okay. So the question is, small business, jeweler business. How would he advise them how to use social media? And they're more inclined to offer what discounts?
The do's and don'ts.
Like what are do's and don'ts?
Of a small business with a business name and how to use Twitter or Facebook to connect with their audience, but not be too aggressive.
Right. So do's would be to start listening first, and then at a local level.
Right.
So, as one example, just find out. It's in Chicago, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so find out who's in Chicago. Find out who's in Chicago that's talking about jewelry or things that are related maybe to the lifestyle, and then figure out how they want to engage them. I've got someone who, their Twitter handle is Best Jerky. It's at Best Jerky, and it's an Indiana business. And I talk about beef jerky, and so they sent me samples. And now I talk about at Best Jerky and the House of Jerky, and and that's how they found me, right? So you start there, just find people that are local, and then figure out how to actually talk to them.
Okay.
I have a question for you. You said that we have a social system, and I'm wondering, you have planets that were on that slide. I'm wondering which planets do you think are going to be on there, and which ones are, going forward, and which ones are the best ones to spend time on?
It's different for everyone. For these, actually, interestingly enough, if they're LinkedIn is, I neglect that one. I mean, I think it's just more just to keep current. Twitter, I give a lot of attention to. Blogs, Facebook, Delicious, I use as like a work resource. SlideShare, same thing. These are all the ones that I actually tend to use the most, and I might add some, but it's different for everyone. I mean, it really is. Friend feeds, I'm on friend feed. I don't really, my whole thing is I'd rather master a few than just be everywhere. So I do have it open, and friend feed can kind of run on its own. And some people are using that to get information on, but I'm not really, I mean, it's kind of on the far fringe there. It's different for everyone. I couldn't answer that question. I mean, it depends on, this is kind of where you have to decide how do you want to use these things. So the reason why I give Twitter a lot of attention is because it's actually, on my blog, it's a little bit more straight up. And on Twitter, I can be a little bit more myself and talk to people. And so the two complement each other. So I can say those two are definitely going to stay probably on the orbits for a while, I would think. Something else comes up. But my strategy is that you pick a few and go a little bit deeper. Anybody else?
Somebody over there.
I'm going to do the lady in the black. Yeah. Is your job to actually do the Twittering on behalf of your company? Is that part of your job?
Yeah. And then I have my own.
Okay. So the question is, how do you kind of manage the two?
Right, exactly. Because I'm building up a great professional following that nobody has had on the scene. But now, like, my personal branding might be disconnected because people don't necessarily have that already.
I would talk to your company and actually, approach them and say, hey, and maybe it's just the logo. What does it look like on Twitter? Is it a logo?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe approach them and say, hey, I'd like to still kind of keep the logo, but I'd like to let people know that I'm behind it, because that's actually a better strategy anyway. And if you do that, you'll start building your equity as well. So it's not just your company that's benefiting. And you don't want to, you want your company. Yeah. Yeah. I think if you do that, if you were to say, yes, this is the company, yes, I'm working and I'm getting paid to do this, but it's, I think, just a better business practice that your name be attached to it anyway. And then as sort of as a side effect, you'll benefit personally, because people will know you and they'll know all the great work that you did for your company, and then and I think you'll be more effective both ways. A lot of these things when you work for a company, you have to look for, it's hard, but you have to look for mutually beneficial opportunities, so things that will benefit your company and will also help you out as well, because that's kind of the win-win. Yeah, last one in the back there. So it's a small business, yes? Yes, and they naturally put themselves out there in all their advertising, and so they would do it in social space as well, right? Well, the leaders of the company are not willing to put their face. Oh, they're not willing to. They're not, and so I'm even suggesting, look, I need a face. I need somebody's face. Who's it going to be? It's okay, yeah. I mean, again, this goes back to if you are running those, let people know that you're the person managing those, and then you have to deal with that because then you're accountable. It'd be better to do that than to try to have them be the face, and then you acting as like the, what's the word I'm looking for, like the ghost author type of thing, where you're kind of handling their behalf. It's better that people know it's you, but you're doing it on behalf of the company versus, carrying over, well, this is the owner and this is their Facebook account or whatever. I mean, I think if they're going to put themselves out there, but they're not going to be responsive, that's not going to do anything for the company. Because it kind of relates to she's an employee, as you are right. I forget the company. Critical mass. I think you have to be transparent, and I mean, what I'm saying is, rather than you recommending that they put their faces out there, if the likelihood is that they're not going to engage, you're better off just being transparent and kind of like going with the route that we just discussed earlier. We can talk. I'm going to you and I can talk later. Yeah.
You talk about managing your social systems, and say you're into 2 or 3 of them. Is there a platform or something that can feed into, or you can feed into, so you can not have to go to LinkedIn or Facebook or Twitter 12 times a day to check and manage?
I mean, theoretically friend feed, but there's some people. There's a very small person like Robert Scoble, and he swears by that, and that's probably where he spends almost all his time. It depends on So when a service like that first came out, you initially think, oh, this has kind of solved it, but it's different for everyone. I mean, I think more the emphasis is on how to figure out where those intersections are that work for you. Like for me, it really actually works to have my Twitter sync to Facebook. And we were talking about this earlier. People don't see my conversations. They don't see anything with an ad. All they see is, so it's really like maybe 10 or 12, and it's still a lot. It's still high volume, but I haven't lost anyone because of it. And I've also seen traffic come from it, the links, and it's just easier for me. I don't have to update 2 places. So, kind of figure out what works for you, and then just be cognizant of that. I know that I've got people oftentimes talking on Facebook, and they never see the Twitter world, and so I have to kind of manage those 2 worlds every once in a while. Nice to help.